As a little girl, I loved to sit on the Elgorian Bridge, one of the portals that connected our planet to Earth. It was not a bridge in the usual sense, but it was a sacred natural preserve created long before my time by powers far greater than mine. It was a garden of sorts, a magical oasis that floated over a tear in the universe where a connection, a wormhole, could be established from my planet Khandar to Earth. It was called a bridge because of the energy-reinforced hemp passageways connecting the floating natural oasis to solid land. Beneath the Elgorian Bridge was a body of water to the naked eye, but an entire world could be watched from above by those with enough power to open the gateway or pull away the dark watery curtain. Very few had the energy or power to master the skill, yet from an early age I could tap into that well of power and explore it to my heart's delight. I had an affinity for the bridge, as if my destiny would be shaped here. As a young child sitting on the bridge, I could watch Earth's inhabitants from the safety of my home. Unlike my peers, I was drawn to this realm. I found it fascinating, the different species of life forever churning in a kaleidoscope of evolution, as if it didn't know what it wanted to create next. This visage helped me cope with the loss of my parents and the deep-seated loneliness only an orphan can feel. The bridge was where I found peace since that horrible night my Aunt Kashia took me in as a young, emotionally vulnerable girl. Whenever melancholy would set in, I found myself wandering toward the bridge, and as I dangled my legs over the edge, a light would surround me, telling me I was not alone. Although I was too young to have seen the great beasts they called dinosaurs roam the land, I was able to watch the passage and growth of humans over the last few centuries. Sometimes, due to my affinity for the bridge, it showed me glimpses of the past. I was not in control of these visions. I could not dictate who, what, or where it took me. They were eras long gone, before I took my first breath, as if it were preparing me for an uncertain future. Time worked differently on Khandar. Sometimes just a blink of a human life was merely a year on our planetary plane. However, the most powerful of us were blessed with incredibly long lives. Their minds, flesh, and bones were kept young by the very energy that was keeping our planet alive, the core that stored the very essence of the cosmos. However, sometimes that same power could age the carrier, speeding up their life cycle because of the nature of their power. This aging could be seen in the scholars who spent their lives in a state of curiosity. As their knowledge grew, stored in their minds, the weight of the truths and connections they accumulate eventually degrades their minds, and the body slowly follows. As for our long-lived state, humans would call this immortality, where the blink of a second spanned years of a person's life. A living torture for some, but in reality, it was just science. Many of our elders were gone now, perished from the rot which infiltrated our minds, homes, and environment during the Great War. But many were still alive, and I would always seek them out to glean more information about this world that so fascinated me. Through the bridge, I could see Earth's people in their constant state of war, the fall and rise of empires, the great love between people, and also their great deceit. They loved so strongly, and would move mountains to share a moment in their personal reality with the object of their desire. Unfortunately, they hated just as robustly as they loved, destroying anything with a short-sightedness that was appalling and often catastrophic. Hatred is born of fear, anger, jealousy, pain, and sometimes just pure, unabashed pleasure. Such pleasure was found in a deranged mind by a soul so tainted that death was the only option. They were pack animals, all rallying around a chosen leader who could lead them to greatness or down a path of epic destruction and brutality. Their lives were so short, and their education on history so faulty that they were doomed to repeat the same mistakes every other generation. Their creativity was inspiring. Every once in a while, there was a great light, glinting with unlimited potential, making the entire world take notice. But sometimes, that spark winked out before its significance and full budding possibilities could be realized. Sometimes it was from natural causes, but mostly their existence was cut short because they went against the status quo, attempting to rally the people to be greater and better, going against the greedy and rich. These were ravenous acolytes of the rot who'd lost their souls for their endless search for power. Sometimes I would conserve my life force for weeks before I approached the Elgorian Bridge, so that for short periods of time I could see the past, helping me better understand the present. In my search, I learned of them through a Galilean man who debated with Jewish authorities on the subject of God as his disciples wandered the Negev desert and fertile lands of the Jezreel Valley. His gift was one of love, regardless of the transgressions done to him and his people. He also had the ability to suffer, which inspired nations and eventually influenced the world. Humans always needed to believe in something greater than themselves to justify their behavior toward the world around them. I watched how this Galilean man inspired scores of people. However, as time progressed, his words and teachings became twisted into the religious divisions found in the human population today. Those were Machiavellian tendencies used in his teachings to create their cultural and economic deterioration, spreading like cancer across their world for their own selfish means.